Hello.
Hello, we're back for our 7th episode of Vibes Revealed.
And our first episode with a guest.
Yay! Oh my gosh, this was so fun. This was great.
It was really fun.
So at the time of recording this, we have already recorded our episode, just fully transparent with you all. But yeah, we just kind of, before the episode gets started, we just wanted to mention that today we're talking about astrology.
Yeah, astrology for the beginner. I consider myself Taylor considers herself a baby astrologer, but like she knows so much about astrology. I'm coming from a place where I literally don't know that much about astrology. So the conversation was interesting because from my perspective, every time I heard something that was like, ooh, red flag, people aren't going to get this, I popped in some questions. So hopefully it's going to be a good base for anyone who's curious about astrology, anyone who didn't quite know what the fuck was going on when people were talking about astrology, because that's a huge light bulb that clicked for me this summer, where I was like, oh, the planets move and we move and the stars stay, and that's what happened. It was a huge realization.
Oh, I love that.
I loved it. The conversation was great. And we go over just beyond the basics. I think for most of us, the basics are, what is your sun sign? You know, what day were you born? And that kind of dictates what your astrological sign is. And that's the extent of most of our knowledge. But today we go a little more into the sun, moon, and rising signs, which are like the 3 major placements in your chart. And then we talk a little bit about the birth chart, and then about 3 of the major planets that play a role, and all of our placements there. And it's fun. It gets interesting.
Also in this episode, I had some technical difficulties, had a couple mic changes. So if you're hearing changes in audio, that's all that is. Classic
Technical difficulty land.
Yeah, for sure. But you know what? We're just rolling with it. We're rolling with this episode. We ended up talking about different stuff than we thought we would, and it turned out great. So that's where we are.
Yay.
So this is it. Here we go. Episode 7, Astrology.
Welcome to Vibes Revealed,
a podcast dedicated to pulling back the veil around wellness, with your hosts,
Taylor McKiska
and Jay Tollett.
We believe living well is for everyone,
and no topic is taboo. Join us on our journey as we redefine what it means to be truly well in a modern world.
We're celebrating everyday magic,
but always keeping it real.
Let's vibe. Welcome. Here we are, Vibes Revealed. This is our 7th episode. I can't believe we've done 7 episodes. Yeah, it feels great. So today we have a super, super special guest. This is our first ever guest to the pod.
Yay!
My amazing friend, Ellie. You may know her as Eleonora on Instagram and Twitter, all the socials.
Yeah, I'll change it later. It's
Okay.
a work in progress.
I honestly, when I saw that name, I was like, this is genius.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. But yeah, so we have Ellie with us here today to talk astrology, and I am going to let Ellie just introduce herself.
Yeah, hi everybody. So my name is Ellie, also known as Eleonora, which is my full name too. But yeah, I know, it's genius. I love my name so
It's
much, like
genius.
how
It's
I
genius.
came up with
Wait,
it.
Ellie, will you say your whole full name?
Oh my God, I'm back at AMDA. This is
Oh
how
my
we
gosh.
used to slate.
Yeah.
AMDA.
So that's how we know each other, was we went to performing arts school together, and every single day before our class would start, our entire class would slate. So we would like step forward, say your full name, and Ellie has the most beautiful name. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah, it's gorgeous.
Okay, here it goes. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Eleonora Tagliapietra.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Thank you.
stunning.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
People are like, what? Say that again. Slower. It's like, you're never gonna get it. It's okay. But anyway, yeah, that's me. I've always been into astrology, like since I can remember. My mom always did tarot readings, like not professionally, but she did it with friends and stuff like that, which I was always like, hey, what are you doing? She was always like, go to your room. This is for adults. Like, you can't be here right now. Like, okay. But she had a bunch of astrology books too. So I always used to raid her bookshelf. I knew I was a Scorpio my whole life. Never really resonated that much until later in life. And then I found out I have a whole birth chart. So I was like, oh, no wonder I don't resonate with this so much, because I have like a whole other bunch of shit, floating around in my birth chart. So that's kind of how I got into astrology. After I moved here, of course, went to performing arts school, kind of left it in the back burner. But these last 3 years, after I started working at Liberate, which is a spiritual shop where I work at, I do the events over there. Started getting more into astrology because they did astrology there too. One of my good friends, Rebekah, she actually was like a huge key piece in me starting again with astrology. She shared a lot of her knowledge with me, which I'm like super grateful. But anyway, once quarantine started, that's when I was like, okay, we got to do this like for real, for real. So that's where I kind of like just threw myself in there, and I was like, okay, let's see where this takes us. Like, it's time for change, So I just dove in, and it's been great. I practice more traditional Hellenistic astrology than modern astrology. I find it more comforting that there's more rationale of how things are done, and like explain it's like, oh, this is why it is the way it is, this is why we have the houses, this is how we like came up with the significations of the houses and the zodiac, and how we time things and stuff like that. So I find a lot of comfort in that.
What is the key difference between modern astrology and traditional astrology?
Mainly is the use of house systems and planets, because traditional astrology doesn't really use the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, just because they're not really visible to the naked eye. So they don't treat it really as a personal planet, like that's a direct influence. It's more of like I don't even want to say subconscious, but it's more in the back. It's more of like gradual change that is very transformative, but you don't see it as much as you would see like a Mars placement coming through, because that's more of a personal planet. You can see it with the naked eye. You can see what is indicating, it's affecting, what it's kind of doing, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the house system, yeah, modern astrology kind of uses positives more, which is more for like psychological astrology, to really get into your placements and see how they work, versus whole sign house, which is just like you take the rising, that's the whole first house, doesn't matter where your rising falls. Easier to delineate and get figure out planetary conditions or timing techniques, especially like annual perfections and stuff like that. You have to use it with whole sign houses, because a whole, that's kind of how it gets based on.
I'm definitely a fan of whole sign houses. And Jay, when I read your chart, I was using whole sign. So when you go to get a reading from someone else, they will most likely read in Placidus, which will it will put your houses in different places.
Neither of them is right or wrong. It just really, whatever you resonate with, you can relate with both things. They're just both going to have very important different messages for you. So it's worth looking at it on both sides.
Totally. Amazing. Before we get too deep into what's in a birth chart, because I definitely want to cover that, let's do our card of the convo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
let's ask how everyone's doing.
Yeah. Let's definitely ask
part.
how everyone's doing. How is everyone doing? Yeah.
What I loved that Ellie was saying, I love the idea of quarantine as a catalyst. And I feel like it's so cool that you jump started your like getting into your astrology business from being in quarantine. I feel like that's where a lot of us have been sitting like, oh, I may as well do something with what I'm passionate about.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So I feel like that feels good. But I don't know. What's up? What's up, Ellie? How have you been otherwise?
Oof, girl. It's been rough since Mars retrograde. And rough. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. There were some losses, we're processing. It's been good. It's getting better. It's getting better. But I wasn't looking forward to this Mars retrograde, and it proved me right. So I'm glad I was right about that.
I'm excited to get into this Mars retrograde because some funky shit's been going on with me for the past few weeks. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Normally, whenever I feel like I get to a point where I'm like, really, some fucked up shit is going on. And then I just say, Taylor, what the fuck is happening in the stars? Because
2020
so
in a
I feel like
nutshell.
this is one of those weeks, or the last 2 weeks actually, where I'm like, someone's gonna need to tell me what's going on up there because whatever's happening down here is.
Not
So I
popping.
feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
What about you,
Mhm.
Taylor? How have you been?
Well, I've been okay. I'm definitely feeling the effects of being inside so much.
Yes.
Especially because where I live in Los Angeles, it is not nearly as smoky as it is in some other places. And I am really truly in my physical practice sending healing to those places where fires are just rampant and the air quality is really bad. But the air quality has been pretty bad here. And we usually have all of our windows open. I have tons of windows in my apartment and I usually just have the whole place opened up. And with quarantine, I haven't really been going anywhere, but we would go for a walk around the neighborhood, or I haven't done that. I haven't stepped foot outside of my apartment in over a week, and it is really getting to me. Over the weekend, I felt just really alone, really isolated, and started having all of this stuff of oh, I just miss people. And I was kind of there last time. I talked about my vibe was dancing in a room full of people. And I think I'm just really starting to feel that. And I know that that's just not how it can be, but I could go for just seeing someone I don't know and having a kind interaction with them. Oh, but a really exciting thing that happened, I fully finished my Reiki master teacher attunement
she
and
is
training.
fully mastered. I'm ready for you to attune me. I'm already ready.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting to think about all of my Reiki learning could not have come at a better time. It
Definitely.
now is, I was I need this, and I am so glad I have this tool. When I was feeling super low, I gave myself a Reiki treatment, and I was just wow, this is powerful shit. I feel great.
I love it. I might need you to send me some Reiki. I've been taking 2 naps a day, literally. I wake up, and this morning I woke up and 15 minutes later I was like, actually, I'm going to go back to bed. I went back to bed for an hour. I never do that. And then invariably by 2 p.m. I am passed out on my bed again, dead asleep for another 2 hours. I am knocked the fuck out by the air quality. And as I look out, the sky is almost blue today. So I know that the quality is getting better. I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful.
What else has been going on with you? I feel I haven't talked to you in a couple days.
I know, it made me depressed. And I was like, okay, at least we're going to be able to talk today. But
yeah.
I mean, I've really just been staying inside. I usually do all my workouts outside. I haven't even really been working out. I've been doing these wild meditations in the morning. It's an hour-long practice from Osho, which definitely full-blown wild country. If anyone's seen I'm literally flailing around my room, screaming, jumping up and down, chanting. It's a whole fucking shit show, but it is so transformative and healing. I've been confronting my super ego, and that's been a pretty cool discussion. I named him Lawrence. He really likes to fuck up the program, and he's in my way a lot, but I'm just it's okay. That's just Lawrence doing Lawrence. And so I have this whole different transformed attitude about my psyche, and I think a lot of it has come from this dynamic meditation. Maybe it should be my vibe. I'll talk about it later because it's pretty wild.
Amazing. I love that.
Do you want to do the card of the convo? I know we've been trying to do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. She reminded us.
Yeah, let's do our card of the convo. I'm actually very excited to see what comes up in this card of the convo. And since you are both familiar with tarot and both readers, I feel all of our energies are really coming together for this.
I know, I love it.
So this is going to be something we can refer back to throughout the conversation, something to anchor us in this moment, set the tone. Let's see. We have a 9 of Cups reversed.
Ooh.
The thing that's coming up right away is what are you wishing for? And I think that is an interesting anchor. What are you wishing for? What?
Mm.
Oh my gosh. I feel like this is also about just sort of embracing the Neptunian, the sort of like way out there, the star stuff of conversation. I think all the time in Nine of Cups, whether it's upright or reversed, that there is this sort of like permission for things to just not make sense, for things to just not know. And when we talk about wishes, we're talking about something way different than like making a plan. And I think of Nine of Cups as like it's all the dream stuff. It's like fluffy clouds and unexplainable things and the stuff that just doesn't make sense. And I have read a lot of people call Nine of Cups the wish card, and it's your wishes coming true. And I kind of like
That's
to
what I
remind
thought.
I like to remind myself of that space of what kind of wishes I made before I thought about anything in terms of like manifestation. Like, what did when I blew my candles out on a cake and I was 6 years old, what did I wish for? This like very pure space of wishing.
Yeah.
And I feel like in Nine of Cups reversed, we're really invited to like go deep, deep, deep within. And like, what is your subconscious wishing for?
I like that you say that. And I like that you said that when we're about to talk about astrology, because I think there's like this stigma around astrology that it's like here to predict our future.
Yes.
And then since, starting to talk to you more about astrology and since learning more about astrology, there's now more of this sense of just like, what do I want to make happen? Or like, what is my dream for myself? And then how can I look at the stars and be like, oh, that fits into this picture now? Instead of being like, the stars are going to paint a picture for me. It's more like, how do I work with this current situation to still like go towards what my dreams are, my wildest dreams? And I feel like it's such an important shift.
Yeah.
From horoscope to guidance, I guess.
Yeah. I like that.
Let's see
So
how
I
it
feel like
comes in.
we're leaving some space for things to maybe not make perfect sense, for things to be, it may not be wrapped up neat with a bow, but it will be dreamy.
Yes.
Believing that everything is possible.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Hey, let's do
Come
it.
on. Yeah, let's do it. So, Ellie, the first thing we wanted to talk to you about is a birth chart. I think a lot of people are really familiar. If they know anything about astrology, they know their sun sign. But like you were saying in your introduction, we have this entire, I always think of it as like the blueprint of you.
Yeah.
Or really just like the picture of the sky at the exact time you were born in its simplest term. Yeah, it was so funny when I was talking to Joey about astrology and I told him that. I was like, it's literally just like what the sky was the moment you were born, like what was actually in the sky. You know what he said to me? He goes, like planets, like NASA. And I was like, yes.
Yes.
Like planets like NASA, like real.
Exactly that.
Yeah,
The real ones.
Yeah. And then he was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. So
That's so cute.
yeah, I thought that was really funny. And then it started to make sense for him when he realized that it was like actually talking about the real planets in the sky that you can see.
That moment.
Yeah. So if you want to give us just a quick, like, what do you think of when you hear birth chart? And what are some things we should know about seeing our birth chart or working with our birth chart?
So my main thing when somebody says birth chart, I'm like, let me see it. Let me know everything about you. I want to help, first of all, but I'm also like the nosiest bitch.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm like, I wonder why you talk the way that you talk. And I wonder why you do like this way, or why do we get along so well? Like, you know what I mean? So definitely when I hear birth chart, I mean, my alarm just goes off. I'm like, I want to see it. I want to see it. Me. Let me. The most important thing for me in a birth chart, obviously your big three, sun, moon, and rising. To me, and this depends on people and, like what the planetary condition is, if their sun or their moon. Some people can resonate more with their sun. Some people can resonate more with their moon. Some people resonate more with their rising. It really depends on how everything is tied in together. But I tell people to look at the big three first, especially concentrating on the rising and the ruler planet of the rising, where that is, how it is, like, is it receiving any hard aspects? Is it in a good house, bad house? Because that's also kind of gonna tie into your rising, your first house, how you show up, because that's your basically your identity. The closest thing to you is your body. That's pretty much my first tip. Like some
So
moon
what is
rising.
the difference between the sun, the moon, and the rising for people who completely don't know?
Yeah, so the sun is basically your vitality, your life force, what we're really passionate about at our core, like what we're here to do. The moon is your emotions, your, I don't want to say values because that's more Venus, but it's your emotional self, your body. Like, how do you want to take care of your mind, of your heart? And then your rising is basically the moment where the sun rises up above the horizon. Like, that is the rising sign. That's how it gets calculated. But your rising is how you show up in the world. A lot of people describe it as a mask, which I don't really like to use that term because it's not anything fake. It is very much a part of you and how you show up in the world predominantly. So it's more of like a filter. All the planets that you have, they're all going to be filtered through whatever your ascendant is, that kind of energy.
Mm.
And it's pretty much like, yeah, because like I told you, like I said before, like I didn't really resonate with my sun sign, that's a Scorpio, until later on. I was always social, always wanted to be with people, always wanted to make people happy, you know, like, let me help you. It's all about you. And I'm a Libra rising with my Venus conjunct my ascendant, which is the ruling
I'm a
planet of
Libra
Libra.
rising.
Yes.
Wait, Ellie,
Yay!
are you also a Cap Moon?
Yeah, are you too, Ellie?
Yeah,
I'm an Aries sun though.
it's okay. It's
But
okay.
still, we have two
We're
of the
Mars
same
ruled.
major ones.
Our suns are Mars ruled. So
Yes.
yes,
Oh my gosh, we have
bitch.
so
I
much in
love it.
common.
Yeah. I feel like I have surrounded myself with Cap Moons and Libra risings. Joey's a Libra rising.
Oh my God, I love that for him.
He is
That's
also
so cute.
he is also his rising conjunct Venus. So
Get it.
yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I have that. I have my chart here on hand. I'm like, oh, what the fuck is going on? I still fully don't know all of this, but
It's okay.
I like kind of do now. Taylor's been
Yeah.
helping me.
Do you want to? I love this. I don't know if you listen to the Strology show.
Oh, every Monday.
Yeah. So I really like that Kirah uses the SMR. Like, what's your SMR?
Girl, that's literally in my notes. I said SMR by Kirah. I was gonna bring it up because I loved it. I was like, what's your SMR? Tell me.
I really like that. So
Mhm.
SMR, as coined by Kirah, the Strology. If you are astro curious at all, highly recommend listening to the Strology show, following Kirah at the Strology. And do you want to tell? We just talked about it, but what is your SMR, Ellie?
I'm a Scorpio sun, Capricorn moon, and Libra rising.
Love. Jay, tell us your SMR.
Aries sun, Capricorn moon, Libra rising.
Love that. And I am a Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon, Aquarius rising. Do each of you feel like you have a particular one of those that you identify with most?
I would say during quarantine, my Cap moon is what I've been identifying with the most. Yeah.
It's funny. Taylor knows this about me. I identify probably with my Capricorn moon the most, but I also resist it the most. Sometimes I feel like a broken Aries, which is fucked up. Like I just feel like I'm like I do feel like an Aries a lot of the time, but then there's like parts of me that I'm like, why aren't things going the Aries way for me? And then I'm like, oh, there must be other things going on. I feel like there's like a lot of like pressure in me, and this is kind of the super ego shit that I was talking about, that I like try to put myself into a very rigid structure, and I'm very hard on myself, and I like try to make myself be this like rigid Capricorny person, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I have to be free, and then I like break all my own rules, and I'm like, what the fuck, why did I do that? But I think I still resonate most with, I have a lot of Capricorn placements, and I see it come out of me a lot. I resist it, but like it still comes out the most.
Yeah, you have a packed Capricorn house.
Is it called a stellium?
Stellium, yeah.
See, I'm learning. I
yeah,
have
when you have-
Capricorn stellium in the
Mhm.
3rd house or something. Maybe the 4th house.
4th house.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a Libra rising like me.
Yeah, I think that kind of off topic, but I think that's why I like whole sign houses.
Because you can just, there's no like, oh, it's in it is in Capricorn, but it's in my 5th house. It's like, no, bitch,
No,
it's
no,
the
no.
4th house, period. Like, we're leaving it there.
I
That's
Yeah.
how we're doing
misunderstood
it.
that.
Yeah.
What do you resonate the most with?
I resonate most with my Aquarius rising. Even though I have a ton of Scorpio placements, I think when people meet me, what they get is very Aquarius.
Totally.
And yeah, I feel super I have Saturn in Aquarius. My rising is Aquarius. I feel so Saturn ruled sometimes. Like it's just very, I feel very Saturnian, but I also feel very I feel like I see things big picture a lot of the times, and like I'm looking at society and I'm looking at a group. I see things from like that societal, and I think that that's also very Aquarius, to kind of like separate yourself from that and feel like, well, that's society and this is me. You know, and I definitely do that a lot. And then I take on what I think is a society thing, and then I act as if I personally by myself can solve it as an individual. And I take on that responsibility as if it's like me personally, by me not shopping at Amazon, I can single-handedly end capitalism. And that is just like not how it works. So
But it's a good starting point.
and so that is
I
like
love that.
that is a very like my Scorpio-ness has nothing to do with that. That is so Aquarius. When we think too about all of your sun, moon, and rising placements, I think that those are going to be the placements that people feel the most. I think we feel what's happening currently, like the current astrology weather. I think all of us feel that too, as it hits our chart in different ways. But I think like what you feel most often is your sun, moon, rising, and how what's currently happening is hitting those places. So I think that that's such a great place to start. If you're just like, I want to understand astrology a little bit better, I'm maybe not quite ready to like take in my whole chart at one time. If you just start with sun, moon, and rising, and sort of check in on the astro weather and see maybe like how what's happening now is hitting those places, if it's making any aspects, you can really start to feel how things affect you.
Okay, wait. So, for all of the people who don't understand astrology at all, let's unpack what you just said, Taylor. Ellie, can't, because I didn't have any awareness of this. I was not connecting the fact that planets were orbiting and moving through the stars, which are constellations, and that's what's going on in astrology. So, in the most layman terms possible, how do we explain what's going on in the stars? How do we explain how certain planets or certain constellations are coming together to explain where our planets are in our chart? I mean, like, let's talk about sun signs. For 20, how long is it? For 31 days. For 30 days.
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
The sun, when you look at it up in the sky, is hanging out in
A
constellation.
constellation.
And that's why if you're born in those 30 days, you are considered a sun sign Virgo in this current timeline.
Right.
But then there's more going on. There's planet.
Okay.
And people don't quite understand that. You know what I mean? We're kind of like, what the fuck? And why is it a new moon in this? Why is it a full moon in this? Why is it a different season, but it's Capricorn? We don't know. So how do we explain that?
Yeah, well, I would like to think that everybody knows that the planets orbit around the sun. So therefore, the planets are always going to be moving. Therefore, they're going to be in a different position well, maybe not the outer planets because they move so fucking slow, but more of like the personal planets like the sun, the moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury, like all these motherfuckers move so fast. Well, the moon moves signs every like 2.5 days, give or take. So that's the fastest moving body that we have in the chart. And then your rising changes every 2 hours or so, because every 2 hours there's a new constellation rising over the eastern horizon. So therefore that changes your whole house system. That's why it's so important to have a specific birth time, because 1 minute could change, especially when you're using whole sign. 1 minute can change your whole shit. So that's very important. Then Mercury, I think about 3 weeks in each sign. So every 3 weeks or so changes signs. Venus, I'm not sure how fast she moves. I think it's like a month or so, like 3 weeks or so as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so things are ever changing all the time. I don't know if that answers your question. I think
No,
I'm
I think that's
still
super helpful.
Yeah.
okay.
I think we do know that the planets move. We know that the planets orbit, but I think so few of us connect like
The constellations
astrology
and where they're
to,
moving.
yes.
I
And
got you.
that's like a huge, like, for me, what's been super helpful for me as someone who doesn't know much about astrology, I've been going outside and looking at the stars, and I have one of those like constellation apps that like
Like the sky guide,
does
yeah.
like augmented reality into the sky, and I'm like, oh shit, the moon is in Capricorn. Like I like
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the planet literally sitting in the constellation. And then like I'll do that at night, and then I'll wake up in the morning and I'll like move it again, and I'm like, oh my god, Venus was over there when I went to bed, and now it's over here. And like you start to realize that you're like, oh, now it makes sense. If I was born sitting in this place, all that astrology is just me looking up and being like, oh, Venus is over there in this constellation, and the moon is over there in that constellation. And it makes so much more sense. But I think so few of us actually connect astronomy, like what is happening in the stars, with astrology, even though it's they're the same.
That's a big missing piece of astrology, is that like it's very literal. It's not like I think there is a very intuitive piece involved with maybe understanding, but also you could be just like a person who doesn't really think you're that intuitive and be very connected to astrology and have like a very clear mathematical understanding of the degrees between the planets in the constellations that they're in right now.
Yeah.
So it's not as woo. I think as people, I mean, it is woo, and it is magic, and it really can be such a like rich, powerful, magical practice, but it can also be just like a very practical, very math-based study, if that is what you want it to be, or if that is a way that you can make astrology make sense for you. I think this is another thing that traditional astrology is kind of helpful for, is like understanding the lore of the constellation.
Yes.
And like when you understand the story or how that constellation in its oral tradition came to be known as what it is, then you have an understanding of the energy of that sign. So I think it's not so like mysterious as people make it out to be. Like you could find all of the stories of all of the constellations, and then like, okay, there you go, that's Aries energy, that's Scorpio energy,
Also the stories of the gods that the planets are named after. Then you're like, oh, Mars, god of war, got it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, especially like this all was created and founded in like Mesopotamian Egyptian times. Like they're the ones that came up with natal astrology, and the diurnal rotation and the delineations of the house systems, and coming up with all their significations, which actually, like, I was reading about it in a book the other day, and it's like, how did these people, like, I'm talking like 500 to 200 BCE, you know what I mean? Like, what? These people, everything hand. It's like, you have no, like, I'm pretty sure they had some other type of technology that we're not aware of at this day, because they were on some other shit for sure.
Totally.
But the fact that it's like, oh, this makes actually perfect sense. Like, okay,
maybe someone.
That's why traditional usually uses only, because you can see Jupiter and Saturn in certain times of the year, like you can now, but mostly you could see the sun, the moon, Venus, Mercury, and Mars. Like those are very visible planets that you could see at any time probably. And then Jupiter and Saturn, every now and again, they would be like, hey, we're here, like we're popping up, and then we'll be gone. But the rest, it was just like, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I only recently like started looking up in the sky, and then Jupiter and Saturn just appeared, and I was like,
They're always
Th-
there.
they're so bright. They're so bright. They were so bright this summer, and I was, yeah, I'm definitely have like developed my astrological learning just by like being outside and being like, what the fuck is that? Like it looks bright as fuck, and you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been interesting.
So I think that that's it. When astrology feels overwhelming, you can just remember it's very much literally like NASA, the planets and the stars. It's the constellations and the planets. And
Love it.
it's also like the earth rotates and also revolves.
Yeah.
So it is. And you can think of the other planets doing that too. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool to think about everything's in motion, everything is changing. So when we do get those where we're in a transit, like when we, I think the most common one people know and fear is Mercury retrograde. But like, you just keep reminding yourself, like, we're in motion. Nothing
Mhm.
is, we are not just like glued into Mercury retrograde. Like, Mercury is moving, Earth is moving. We're all just going along. So, yeah, I think that's nice to keep in mind too about astrology is like, and also for naysayers who are like, well, it's not like that for me. Like, well, it changes all the time. So,
Like how can what's happening up in the planets affect me? And then you're like, well, the moon literally drags the ocean out and then brings it back up
Mm-hmm.
every month. Like the moon has the power to move the seas, and you are made of 79% water, so why wouldn't it have the power to move something within you too?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was deep.
yeah, I feel that way about all the planets. Like, yes, if I think about how far they are, yes, it's far. But in the grand scheme of how giant the universe is, it's really close. They're really close to us. So to think that we wouldn't feel the effects of these things that are in our solar system in such a vastly, unimaginably expansive universe, I just believe fully that of course Mars would affect me. Of course Mercury would affect me. Of course Venus would affect me. They're so close to us in the grand scheme of how massive the universe is.
Yeah, I'd like to think also, a thing that a lot of people don't like about astrology is that people blame it. It's like, well, Mercury retrograde is making me do this, which is like, I get what you're saying, but these planets are not making you do anything because they've been around for longer than you have.
Yeah.
First of all. Second of all, they're indicators of things. Like you study through history and you study the movement of the planets and how they indicated different things throughout history. So you can be like, that's how you delineate the energy. It's just like, oh, well, based on past facts and energies, this is what it might be bringing up, what it might be reflecting, what it might be indicating for it happening. Instead of just being like, well, Mercury retrograde made me text my ex. It's like,
Right.
no, that the planet Mercury did not go into your phone and did that. You did it as a result of the effects of Mercury just being like, hey, I feel like going back. It's like, are you gonna do it? And there's a lot of talk about free will and determinism in astrology, because it's like, well, if a birth chart is a promise of a life, which seems very predestined because those are the placements, you can't change the placements of your birth chart, so you're kind of like, oh, well, my life is written for me. But then you'd still have to go through the motions of every day of just making conscious choices. But see, that's now I'm getting into my head, because it's like you make those conscious choices, but then wasn't that predetermined already? And this is a conversation I have with myself every single day. I'm like, I can't decide. Is it free will? Is it determinism? I don't know.
I like this.
I'm just
I
here
like
for the
this.
ride.
We're all here for the ride.
We're all here
Yeah.
for the
But
ride.
I like the way Taylor has been trying to describe to me, like, what's going on with the planets, what's going on with the houses. And her description has involved like a stage, the set design, and then you as the person who moves around on that stage. So it's like, yeah, you can go in and like recite some lines, or you can do some fucking improv. It's just like what is set up on the stage that you have to move around. And
Yeah,
that's the
work
way that your birth chart is set up. Like, I have to move around these things. This is what this stage looks like at this time for me. but like I'm
Mhm.
still the active like free will player here. You know, I can go with the flow and move around these things, or I can let them block me and cause me to do stupid shit. Like it's all kind of
Yeah.
within your power to just move around the business.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of both, definitely, because there's definitely set things, you know, that you cannot change.
Yeah.
And then there's other things that you can move around, those things that can't change. So it's very, very interesting. But yeah, that's just one thing that I love pointing out, because it's like it's not making you do anything, it's just indicating certain things, which might
Yeah.
be a easier way to look at it and not
It's like,
so self-destructive, you know.
yeah. Like at that moment, the stage is very well set for you to text your ex.
Yeah, it's like I have the text already
Yes,
typed
it's
out. Are you gonna press
Yes.
send?
The script is
yeah,
written
You
out with
know,
the text. It's like, will
right.
you perform that?
Yes.
don't do it. Do not do it.
Right. Well, and I majored in musical theater, so this analogy really worked for me as a 10th house sun person, musical theater major. I like thinking of the signs and what planets are in them as sort of the stage and the props and the things that are making up the space around you,
Uh-huh.
and then you play it out.
You know what I think would be good to talk about? Because a lot of people are just like, oh, Mercury retrograde, but people
Yeah.
don't know what the fuck Mercury is about. Let's talk about some of the closer outer planets, Mercury, Mars, Venus, what those mean and how we can expect their energy to like play into our life. We talked a little about the moon. We talked a little about the sun. What about those other planets?
Yeah. So, well, let's start with Mercury because it's the planet that goes retrograde the most. Honestly, like you said, Taylor, I don't really trip about Mercury retrograde that much. Mercury is the planet of communication. So, and it's a lot about thought too. Anyway, yeah, Mercury, the planet of communication. And I think because it is the planet of communication, a lot of people freak out because that's like our main part of everyday life. We communicate with each other, it's contracts, you know, it's the planet of the mind, the thought. So when Mercury goes retrograde, all these things either can hit a stop, can have delays, miscommunications, things from the past can come up. That's why, like, that's a very pop thingy. It's like texting my ex during Mercury retrograde. It's because things like communication, that stuff come up, which also can happen during Venus retrograde and Mars retrograde, because those planets are love, values, beauty. Mars, you have passion, aggression, sex. So these three retrogrades are very noticeable for, you know, past affairs coming up, just
Yeah.
FYI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I think about Mercury, I think about the messenger, Mercury.
Mhm.
And I think about, messages. I think about deliveries. I think about just things being in transit.
Transit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Mhm.
think that's what a lot of times I experience Mercury retrograde is like I have car troubles. And that is I think that's for me, like that makes sense for wherever that retrograde might hit my chart, you know, that I look at that to kind of see like, okay, well, if this is happening here compared to wherever my Mercury is, then I might get an idea of what might just be slowing down. What else do I think of with Mercury? Yeah, I don't know. I think about things just like bubbly, like bubbling, and
Yeah. A lot of air
it
too.
is.
It's
It's a
like a
lot of
very
air.
air.
Wait, this is the funniest thing because I used to watch a lot of Sailor Moon as a kid. And
Yes.
Mercury, she was blue, and she was like the intellectual one who always had like the mini computer and
Yeah.
like talked through the communicator, and she also did bubbles for her superpower. So I'm like, you're nailing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I feel that sort of like bubble with Mercury. And like when Mercury is direct, I feel like it is just like blowing bubbles. And when Mercury is retrograde, it's like your bubble's stuck and it can't come out. And it's just sort of like
Mhm.
you're like putting air into it and it's like getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when you hit that retrograde snag is like when it pops and you're just like, oh, dang. But yeah, that's what I think of with
Yeah.
Mercury. What do you
Mhm.
think of when you think of Venus? I love Venus.
I love Venus, my
Oh
bitch.
wait, let's talk about our
Yeah.
Mercury placements.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Go for it.
I actually don't know mine.
Oh,
I know, Taylor, you have yours in Scorpio, huh?
my Mercury is in Scorpio, conjunct my Pluto, which I think honestly
Love to
makes
see
me
it.
very comfortable talking about things and thinking about things that make other people very uncomfortable. For
That is
example,
so you.
like, yeah, I can talk about, and this is gonna, I know, literally make people gag, but like I can talk about like poop and I can talk about like surgery, and I can talk about shit like while I'm eating, and it has no effect on me at all. Like I don't even think twice about it when if someone could like tell me a story about shitting their pants, and like I can be like eating a full meal and just like laughing and think it's totally fine and normal. And I think that that is like having, or people talking about death, like I feel really comfortable talking about death. And I think sometimes when I say stuff, it sounds like very morbid, but I say it in the like my Aquarius rising way that I'm like, like it seems like bubbly and fine, but it's weird. It's like this weird kind of like Scorpio, Pluto, sex, death, drugs, money. I'm very comfortable, poop, babies, whatever. Like I don't mind talking about literally anything at all. And I just feel completely neutral about it basically. So I think that is how my Scorpio Mercury plays out.
My Mercury is in Taurus. I don't know what that means. Does it mean I have a grounded way of communication?
I would think so. Maybe a little stubborn too, but that, I mean, that's no shade. It's just like
that's
a
me.
very earth sign
That's me.
stuff, like
Fixed.
very, like, you know, but that's also ruled by Venus. So maybe, you know, it's more of like you find a better way of being grounded and stubborn in your communication. That's not
That was
super,
so me.
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
And I think it
I
would
love
come
that.
across
Just like,
too,
hey.
you like to think about what you value, and you like to think and talk about like how other people can assess value in their life. And yeah, I think also, and because I know you, when you feel a way, you feel that way, and you're like, this is it. There's not a bunch of other options to consider. It's like, this is the way I think and this is the way I feel, and I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah, that's me.
What about you, Ellie?
I have my Mercury in Sag, which, yeah, I love and hate, because sometimes I can't find the words to say things. And yeah, I have brain farts all the time. So it's like, why? They're here, they're in here. But I do like it because I ruled by Jupiter, you know, Sagittarius makes me want to learn all the time and expand and just be like, oh, well, why don't I know that and that and that? And it's a mutual reception with my Jupiter, which is funny because I have both of them in detriment. So it's like, oof. But at least they're in conversation with each other. So they kind of help each other a little bit. So I like it. But it's hard to work with it sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk Venus.
Let's talk Venus, my favorite planet.
Oh my gosh, tell us why Venus is your favorite planet.
Well, one is because it's my ruling planet,
Okay.
my ascendant ruler. So it makes me feel very special. Also, my dad's a Libra and my boyfriend's a Libra. So I do love Libras. Planet of love and beauty. For a second, I forgot what we were talking about. Wow. Your values, art, money also. So for me, I have my Venus in Libra. I love money.
Yes.
Love money, love people buying me things. Although I did that test because I listened to your guys' podcast about like the love languages, and I was like, I wonder. And I thought my love language was going to be receiving gifts. You know what I mean? Like, because I like gifts. It was acts of service, and I was like,
that.
I am, because that's very Libra too. It's like, let me take care
Yeah.
of you. It's very the other.
Totally.
Although I don't want to leave Taurus out because they're also ruled by Venus, you know, which I mean, every time I see a Taurus, I love Tauruses, first of all. My faves, they always look great. They always have great stuff.
Yes.
Their house is
so
always
true.
awesome. It's like plants forever, which I love. Yeah, I think it's just everything fun because with the moon, you have like, you need to take care of you. It's like your emotion needs your heart. But with Venus, it's more, it is that taking care of yourself, but it's more the fun part of where, oh, this is what I'm going to indulge in. And like, I'm going to do this for me and self-love, self-care. And not, it's like, I got to take care of me. How do I like the basis, like foundation of like, if I don't take care of me, everything's fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Venus is a step of like, we're just doing this for pleasure. It's just like an added, you know, nice thing that I can do for me.
Totally.
I like that.
Yeah.
Since this most recent Venus retrograde, that was a big turning point for me in feeling like Venus is values. Venus is what you value and how you perceive value and how you determine what is valuable. And I totally feel Friday is Venus's day. And I think you feel like, if you want to know what Venus energy feels like think about how you felt on a Friday in 8th grade, like getting ready for the weekend. You're going to go get ready with your girls and have a sleepover. And like, that's Venus. That's so Venus energy, is like, it's Friday. I'm out of school. I'm going to have fun. I have some days off. I like love this. And that is like, that's Venus to me.
Yes. I
So,
love that.
yeah. So your Venus is in Libra, Ellie,
Mm-hmm.
and you love
My
it.
Venus is in Pisces. Explain this.
Ooh,
I know
we got an
that is
exalted bitch.
that is exactly when she told me
Yes.
her Venus was in Pisces. That was exactly what I thought. I was like, oh. Also, I
We
just
got that.
would not have guessed that. I would like love to see the other aspects to your Venus, because I feel like it is definitely something. I feel like you resist Piscean nature
I do.
hardcore in
Hmm.
especially in your Venus. Like,
Well, also, yeah, I'm thinking of your chart. If you have a Libra rising, we have a Pisces sixth house, which sixth house deals a lot with health, wellness, your coworkers,
That's where it makes
um,
sense.
your
Yeah.
pets. Yeah, and Venus is like, she's not like, she's really happy in Pisces. She's not really happy in the sixth house because it's not interchangeable with Venus things. Like fifth house is where she finds her greatness. It's like, I'm in the house of fun, of children, of sex, of like creativity. I'm here. But in the sixth house is kind of like, okay, we're stepping down. I think this kind of goes back to stepping down to the foundations. It's like, okay, you got to take care of yourself, which is a good place, I guess. Would be a good thing, to concentrate on. If you have Venus in the sixth, it's like, okay, how can I value my physical
Oh my God,
body?
that's what I value above all else.
yeah. And
Physical
There you
body.
go.
I think that like when you talk about relationships, when you talk about like love and relationships, and you're always just like, I matter the most. Like I am, when you're like,
Yes.
I am self-partnered. I am partnered with myself. It's
It
like,
makes sense. This
yeah,
makes
because
sense.
because it's like you have Venus in the sixth, where its main priority is just like taking care of your body daily. My like, this is my routine. This is what I value my daily routine.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, Pisces being very spiritual. So, I mean, it makes sense that you're in the wellness world and just kind of taking it more, although you do very much physical things, it's also through a spiritual lens, which is very
Yeah.
Piscean, It's just like, how can I, from here to like real life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love this. I'm getting my own personal chart reading from two of my favorite astrologers. Taylor, where's your Venus?
I have Venus in Sagittarius.
Love it. I love
Yeah.
that.
I value learning so much. I really value, like, Sagittarius is mutable. I really value hearing things from different perspectives. I very rarely land on like, I don't want to just talk to one person about this. I want to talk to 25 people about this and hear how this thing has affected each of them. So I'm not just coming in like, okay, well, I heard this one perspective and that's the one I agree with, so that's what I'm going to go with. I think my Venus in Sagittarius is like, no, I want to hear it from the person who's at the top, the person who's at the middle, at the bottom, in between, off to the side. Like, I really like to just, especially all those Scorpio placements too, I love to collect information before I can really determine what I value in it.
Yeah, and also I remember your chart because I was like, oh, that's really beautiful because you have it in the 11th house. So it's just like your place of friends and networking and acquaintances, So it's like, if you find pleasure in like really talking to different people and gathering all this different information and learning from it, and like ruling your ninth house too, of like learning and, religion, all that stuff, it just all ties in very nicely of just being like, I find pleasure in communicating with other people, learning from other people.
I value and I feel very close to people, like going on a trip. Like, I love taking a weekend trip away. And I really value having experiences. I very much like, I would rather have an activity than a present. And I think that that is also very like Sag Venus. Like, I want to do something with you. I want to go somewhere with you. I want to have an experience. Yeah, I think it's a placement that I didn't really understand, but I am so grateful that I have it. It's a great placement.
I like it. I mean, the top of the chart is the most visible, you know what I mean? So it also does make sense of you being like, it's really not personal, because like the top of the chart is really not supposed to indicate very private or personal things. Like it's more of like,
Yeah.
that's all out there. Like it's
Right.
still you, but it's more of like, it's going to be more of like externally
Yeah.
manifested, I guess, for lack of a better word.
If I had to like describe what Sag Venus feels like to me, it's well, and I have Sagittarius midheaven too, and like my dream job is to try a bunch of jobs. Like that's my dream job. Is you know that show Dirty Jobs?
I don't.
Okay, well, there's the show Dirty Jobs where this guy goes around and he just like tries a bunch of like gross jobs where he like does gross stuff. And it's like, I don't want to do that, but I want to just do jobs where like I host a TV show where like one day I'm a first grade teacher and one day I am a rocket scientist and one day I am an interior designer. And like that's the show.
I love
It's just
that.
like
Love it.
me trying jobs. So
We should make this happen for you.
Yeah.
yeah, if
Any
you're
producers, shout out.
if you're a producer looking for a show where a girl goes around and just does jobs, I'm your girl. That's my dream job. Let me know. So that's Venus.
Okay, Mars. Let's talk
Oh.
Mars.
Mars.
What do you think about when you think about Mars?
You know, I'm in a fight with Mars right now, but I'm gonna put that aside for this podcast. When I think about Mars, I think about passion, I think about aggression, assertiveness, sex, a lot of fiery, impulsive actions almost. But I also think about burning and cutting, and I don't want to say denying because that's more of a Saturn thing, but it's very much about taking away things, like burning things and blood, I don't know, like accidents, stuff like that. That's what I think of with Mars. Very
Red.
It's very
very
red.
strong.
I felt red as you were explaining everything. I was like, oh, it's so red.
Well, you know what's funny is the day Mars stationed retrograde, it was the day where Oregon and Washington were literally red.
Oh my god!
Like when the sky was like
red.
Yeah.
Just red. Yeah, that's pretty much. How do you guys feel about Mars? What does it make you feel?
Like, see my energy? This is like, I'm just turning away. I'm shying away from the mic. I do not resonate with Mars. Even though it's my ruling planet, I feel like it's like a really scary energy for me. And I'm just like, ooh, no thanks. No.
Well, see, Mars Scorpio and Mars Aries are different energies to me, right?
Totally. Have you seen that video of the little kid? Ellie, you shared it too. It's like he's making cookies with his grandma and he just keeps like they pour an ingredient and he reaches into the bowl as fast as he can to like eat a whole stick of butter. Yeah.
See, that's very Mars Aries to me.
Yes, that's Mars Aries, where it's just like I poured it in. I gotta eat it right now.
Always.
I gotta get in the bowl.
Like, and it's just like, wait, if you wait 30 minutes, these cookies will be baked. But Mars and Aries, it's like, I'm seeing the butter and I want that butter right now. It's like, bro,
I feel
relax.
so red.
Like, it will be fine.
Yeah,
and that's
like,
what the past 2 months have felt for me, especially with Saturn approaching, like and they squared each other and now they're going to square each other again. Like the grandma is Saturn being like, no, wait until all the ingredients are here and they're in the oven. But Mars is like, I want it now, I want it now, I want to eat this raw sugar, I want to eat this top out. It's like,
Mars energy too is like, the pizza came out of the oven 2 seconds ago. Cool, let it cool. But instead you're just like, oh, I'm gonna eat this pizza right now, and you completely burn the roof of your mouth.
Oh,
that's a very Mars thing.
That's like that's so Mars. It's just like, I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat the pizza right now. Oh my gosh, now I don't have a roof of my mouth anymore.
Now I can't taste.
Exactly.
Definitely has happened to me.
For sure.
Mars in the second house.
Life.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, wow.
I have Cancer Mars, but I recently had a chart reading where we talked about Cancer being a cardinal sign, and I am pretty willing to just do things first. Like I will, if I'm interested in something, if I'm curious about something, if I want to get something started, I have no problem just starting it. There's a lot of energy in my chart, and I think that Cancer Mars is a big part of that, just being like, if you want it, start it, do it, go for it, be the
Yeah.
first. It might not be right or might not be perfect, but just get it started.
I love that.
Yeah, so I think that that's definitely how it plays out for me.
My Mars is in Aquarius. Read me.
I love Aquarius. I love Aquarius placements. I love Aquarius energy. I feel like Aquarius Mars, it wants to like buck the system just to do it because it's like contrarian.
Yeah.
That resonates.
I feel like it has a lot of potential just because of what Aquarius stands for. And like, I mean, Aquarius stands for many things, right? But I think one of the most positive attributes of Aquarius, they're very much, I almost see them as kind of taken from Libra of being like about the other, but not in personal relationships. Like it's not about the other person. It's more like you were saying, Taylor, like the society and them being one person and what you can do for them. Just kind of like fuck the status quo. You know what I mean? Like especially like now, you know what I mean, with all the shit that's happening. It's like fuck all this shit, fuck all the Saturn systems, fuck with the patriarchy, fuck all these systems that are in place to, you know, keep oppressing people and keeping people poor and, you know, doing all these fucking horrible things. When we had that Mars in Aquarius for a little bit, it was like, oh bitch, it's on. Like everybody was like, not in my watch, not over here, you know. Which sucks because we also saw some of the restrictions going down because it was kind of at the same time that Saturn entered Aquarius for a little bit. So like all the social distancing and all that stuff went down for a little bit, but then it came right back up. So it's fine. But I feel like it's very much of that, of just like fighting the system and fighting all of these I think it's very contradicting just because Saturn does rule Aquarius, but I think like Aquarius is the side of Saturn, very different for Capricorn, where Capricorn is like, yes, the patriarchy, yes, power, yes, money. Aquarius is like, no patriarchy, no money. How about like equality? How about societal change? How about progress? How about revolution, or like, you know, something unconventional, something out of the box kind of thing, you know, just being very innovative in how you approach things, your passion, how you assert yourselves, just finding new ways that are not really like what we've been doing before.
Yeah. I think of Aquarius Mars also as like activating the collective, activating a group, activating like a team. Because I think also with Mars, like it's not that deep. Mars is not that deep. Mars is like quick. Mars makes it happen. Mars doesn't care if Mars is saying like to have social justice, we need to remove every single system. Mars isn't thinking about who that might affect. Mars isn't thinking about if there's anyone who's left out in that. They're just saying like, okay, burn it all down. I don't care. Without saying like, okay, well, I also burned all my supplies too. Whoops.
Ooh,
you know?
I feel that.
So
bad.
there's sort of this like Mars wants things to happen really fast without saying like, yeah, burn it all down, but I am going to need something to rebuild, right? And that's where it's like, well, then we need some Capricorn because we need some sustained building energy. And I think Capricorn has gotten kind of a bad rap as like, yes, it is patriarchy. Yes, it is oppressive systems, but also like it's our building blocks. So when we go to build new systems, we're going to need really grounded, sustained energy to do so.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think everything has its, and I don't even want to say good or bad side, but everything has the spectrum of energy where it could be really beneficial or really not beneficial. And it just depends on how you harness that energy, and obviously your other placements and how, you know, any mitigating factors or stuff like that might change the outcome. But it's important to remember that there's a spectrum for every planet, every placement.
Totally. I also don't want, I have like so many Capricorn friends and I'm like, I'm not throwing shade. I love you.
I mean, I love all my best friends are all earth signs, like either Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, you know, so
I love earth signs. I love earth signs.
Wait, where's your Mars placement? Did we talk about it, Ellie?
No, it's in Scorpio. I
Mm.
have all Scorpio, my sun and Pluto conjunct. It's real fun. I spend money like no other. I don't think about it. I'm just like, I see it, I want it, I got it. If it allows me, hopefully. Yeah, I don't really I don't really like my Mars placement just because I'm really bad with money. It's in my second house. So
Mm.
burn through money a lot. Even if it's not mine, I will burn through it. Not as much, not to the degree of like I will burn my own money, but you know what I mean. If somebody gives you a credit card and they're like, "Go buy yourself something," I'm like, "Okay, I'll go do that for sure." Yeah, and being a Scorpio, yeah, I mean, I'm a little vengeful sometimes. I'm a little passive aggressive sometimes. But
Heard
what I like
that.
about it is sometimes I take no bullshit. That's what I like about it. It's like I can smell bullshit a mile away and I'm not interested. Like really not. So that's one thing I do appreciate about it. I think my Cap Moon also helps that because they're like, no, 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 not over here.
I love that.
I love
I
that.
feel like, yeah, I feel like that's a great amount to cover, and we can come back in a later episode because we still have a couple more planets that we would consider personal planets. But
Yeah.
I feel
Those are
like
the
right
main
now,
ones.
yeah, I feel like right now, especially since we're in such Mars heavy times, that's like a great place to call it. And we'll have you back to do Saturn for sure when we get into Saturn in Aquarius
Oh
and
yeah. I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the Mars, what's going on with Mars now and how we can expect that to?
Yeah, like a little Mars weather.
Yeah.
I do. I like thinking about astrology. Like I check the astrology forecast the same way I check the weather forecast. It's the same to
Yeah.
me. So tell us
Yeah.
about the Mars weather, if you would.
Well, now Mars is in Aries, like we covered. It's been there since the end of June. Just stationed retrograde on the 9th, which was a week ago now. Yeah, like we said, Mars in Aries, very impulsive, very wanting to do things, pursuing projects, very passionate, very high energy. But now that stationed retrograde, that can kind of indicate different things. We can either see a slow down of these things, like we're not feeling as much of urgency to get stuff done than before. We might find ourselves again slipping to the past, past lovers, past affairs, past things that brought us passion. Revisiting retrogrades are also all about revisiting, re-examining. So if you have any passion projects, maybe you're coming back to those, like we were talking before, Taylor, or like things that you wanted to do that are very Mars things. Honestly, the thing with this Mars retrograde is we have Saturn, which has been hanging out in Capricorn for a little bit now, well, 2.5 years. There's no way to get to the other side without going through it because Saturn doesn't take shortcuts.
I feel like that's a really good point you just made about because you're saying like Saturn is squaring Mars, right? And in that Saturn square Mars, while Mars is retrograde, I think that it's really calling you to review where you may have taken a shortcut. And Saturn is being like, no, no, no.
Saturn is
No
still retrograde,
shortcuts here.
so yeah, take that because it'll go direct at the end of this month, and then another square will perfect on the 29th, 30th between Saturn and Mars. The good thing is Saturn has the upper hand in this square, so you don't have as much of the destructive energy of Mars coming through. You'll have more of like the disciplinary boundaries, get shit done, let's get all our ducks in a row. Saturn having the upper hand of just being like, Mars, stop. Like just chill out, especially when stations direct, yeah, because you'll have that push and pull energy again of Mars wanting to go backwards and Saturn being like, now we're moving forward, you know what I mean? So it's honestly this half of 2020 and like kind of the beginning of 2021, it's really rough. There's a lot of like contradicting energies that we'll have to work with and find that middle ground. It's like it's a good time to take your time, to just not rush through things, to not be so impulsive, at least until Mars goes direct mid-November. It's like, if you feel like you're good, you have to rest, just rest. Like, don't push yourself. If you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it, because chances are that if you try to work through that and just still make yourself do things that are clearly very not much in your energy field that day, it's just not going to be a good result. Like, you don't want to
Yeah, that's why
do
take
that.
take those naps right now. Like, get the nap while you can get it. Because I feel like, especially when Mars goes direct, I think we're going to feel too restless to nap. I think we're going to feel like we need to create a new strategy with that push from Saturn. I think it's going to be like, I think that in this retrograde, while Mars is retrograde and Saturn is retrograde, we get to sort of like create and review the plan. Has the plan worked? What are we actually asking for when we ask for these changes to be implemented? So I think that those are some of the things that we're going to kind of be feeling on like a very large scale and in our own personal lives, sort of like reviewing the agreements that we've made. And I think that this is a great place to like see what house it's happening in for you. Aries is my third house. So for me, I'm sort of re-examining my relationship to my siblings, to my direct community, taking some time to see what effect my neighbors have on me and if I'm connected to them in any way, and sort of like renegotiating that invisible social contract that we have with each other. I feel like you can really use the Mars retrograde to your advantage in a lot of ways and allow space for like take a nap when you need it, slow down when you need it.
I mean, that push and pull energy is going to be there just because there's really nothing that we can do about it, because, you know, Saturn's going to move forward and Mars is going to be moving backwards. So there is that, coming back to that video of the grandma and the baby, like that's literally what it's going to be once Saturn goes direct and Mars is still retrograde. It's like, that's what the energy is going to feel like. It's us. I almost see it as like us, society will be Mars and the universe will be Saturn. Well, we're all going to want to be like, no, but this. And the universe, like, chill out, everything in its time. You can't just do things without really going through the motions and setting up all those foundations that you're going to need for a sustainable future, especially now that we're talking about like abolishing the police force, putting new systems in place. It's like, great, 100% burn it all to the fucking ground. What are you going to build in place? Do you have those plans in place before you burn it all down? Because that's really what we should. It's like, okay, let's allocate money for all these different solutions that we have so that we can burn that shit down. We can't burn that shit down without having a plan, because then it's going to be everybody for themselves and shit's just going to go down. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's important that we really take this time as a collective to like really put our money where our mouth is, you know what I mean? Or our mouth where our money is. I don't know how that saying is, like not literally, you know what I mean? But just start working towards the change that you want to see, so that we can all just be like, fuck this shit, we're introducing a new world, period.
Wow, I resonate with this on like such a societal level, but also like personally in my meditations, I've been playing with like this polarity and just feeling the push and pull, like with my eyes closed, like feeling the war within myself, and like the active me, and then like my super conscious, and like the discussions that we're having that are just like conflict after conflict after conflict. Like I definitely feel that like in my soul. When I close my eyes, I see it playing out. So this is reassuring. The stars have reassured us.
It's two, they're called the malefics. It's two very, very no planets, you know what I mean? Very like stern. And I don't really want to like keep giving gender to the planets, because, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't really dig that, but it is very like pearl masculine, like I'm here to fuck shit up energy, versus when you have Venus and Jupiter, they're like, oh, we're here to make things pretty and this is all for you and pleasures and expansion and stuff. Like all these bitches are like, have you done your work? Have you done your job? Because if you don't do your job, you can't enjoy the nice things, because you'll have nothing to enjoy, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like a reality check of like, where is it?
I think we are, with so much Mars energy, it's like we've all come in to a home renovation with just a hammer, and we're like, get this down, burn this house down, knock it down, and we're just like, oh my gosh, we only spent money on hammers, whoops.
Yeah, the cat planets are like, hey, we're over here, like, you want to listen to me?
But you know what's funny? Like, I feel my Capricorn energy. I've been I got into this anti-capitalism kick where I was like, fuck capitalism. And then I was like, I don't really know what the fuck capitalism is. So then I just read all of these pro-capitalism books, and but all sides. I've been reading books from all sides, but I feel like I'm in like this, like, I have to know what I'm talking about. And that's like so my Capricorn energy coming out and being like, use power or use my knowledge and the power structures that exist around this knowledge to then go and fuck shit up later. I will fuck shit up. Like that's the plan. But it's getting done through some structure first, which feels different but feels good.
Yeah. I feel like this was totally not the conversation I thought was going to be had at all, but I feel like this was the conversation that needed to be had. Like I kind of wanted to talk about the rest of I wanted to talk about the equinox. I wanted to talk about weather, but I feel like honestly, this is great.
Yeah. I thought this was really good.
Yeah. And maybe Ellie, if you, I mean, we'll definitely keep sharing the stuff that you share. And yeah, but I feel like I definitely want to get into, especially because you brought
full disclosure.
Full disclosure. I definitely want to get into full disclosure. And then we should all just say our vibe.
Yeah.
And like, I love that. I get the feeling so much that like, yeah, I had a plan of how I wanted things to go, but what actually came through is what people needed to hear. Yeah, I feel like I have a better understanding of astrology and the astrological weather. And as always, I feel like so grateful anytime I get to talk about anything like this at all. It is literally a dream. It is like a dream come true to sit here with two people that I absolutely adore and like talk about astrology and be like, yeah, this is my job. Like
that's so 9 of Cups.
Yes, exactly.
The dream is now.
It is. It's like this is a dream come true for me and something that like I didn't even know was possible, and it's just right here happening. Yay. So I love that.
I love this. And I feel like your Mars placement leads directly into full disclosure. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, when you were talking about all of the stuff in your second house. And I think too, just to say, if you're looking at your birth chart while we're doing full disclosure and you want to understand what's kind of built into your birth chart in terms of your relationship to money, take a peek at your second house and see what's there. And I think that you can definitely get an understanding of what is built in you in the way in terms of, so
I'm gonna look at my second house.
Yeah. So Ellie, you have Scorpio as your second house.
Scorpio.
And you have Sun, Pluto, and Mars.
And Mars conjunct,
oh my gosh, packed.
I would also say you can look at your 8th house too. I mean, I know that's other people's money, but honestly, because the ruler of my ascendant, which is Venus, rules my 1st and my 8th house. So like a lot of other people's money is very prominent in my life. You know, it's like a part of who I am, which is very much true. So you can definitely 2nd and 8th house is like the axis that you want to look at to understand your relationship with your own money and to other people's money too, because that might be a factor.
Okay, well now, since we have talked about money, it's time for full disclosure. Yay. Thanks for being willing to do this, Ellie. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
I'm super excited to hear what you have to say about money. So our first question is, how much money do you make?
So I don't make enough, that's for sure. I just launched my services a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, I guess I haven't seen that much money coming in from that yet. I'm giving myself time. Like I'm a very Mars person when it does come to my business. I'm like, what now? Why isn't it happening now? I want it to happen now. I want all like the hype and everything now, which is very, very unrealistic. So yeah, it's been a little slow, I guess.
You just put out your offerings like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it
has not been slow.
Yeah, it's like very new.
Oh my God, to me that's slow. I was like, why don't I have bookings yet?
Yeah.
Trust me, it will take time.
I know, yeah. I really do need to be patient with myself. And I think that is a very thing that I resonate with, like how I make my money. It's like I want it now. I'm not very patient on how I make money. I just like to see progress immediately.
I feel that.
Yeah.
So the second question, what is your pricing and how did you decide on it?
Okay, my pricing, so for a full hour of natal chart consultation, I do $90. And for a 30-minute transit consultation, I charge $60. It took me a long time to figure out what pricing should be right for me starting out because, I mean, I've been doing astrology for a long time, but I haven't done it professionally for a long time. So seeing all the other astrologers, like bunch of other people charge like 200 to 50, like if you go to Leo King, which I like, he has, a huge franchise and name under him, like he charges $1,000 for his consultations, you know what I mean? But it's the Leo King. It's like he's built such a brand and hype around him that it's just like, oh, like I'm getting my own personal astrologer, you know what I mean? So it like for people that have a lot of money, that's probably not crazy because they're probably going to be getting like hella good information. And that's the thing. It's like I plan on raising my prices once I do a certain amount of personal consultations because there is a dynamic that still needs to be felt and worked with, which is the client astrologer dynamic, which I don't have much experience with. Like I've read for a lot of my good friends, it's not the same, you know what I mean? When you're in a professional environment, like somebody that you don't know, you're looking at their chart for the first time, there might be topics, triggers that you want to make sure that you address before you go into the session. So long story short, my best friend pushed me, and it's just really like, yeah, having it sounds so dumb, but having validation from other people being like, you know enough to put yourself out there and charge this, because especially coming from somebody that can be so objective, like they're not going to be subjective. It's like, just because you're my friend, like I'm going to tell you you're good. It's just like, no, you have a lot of information that you've been learning and applying, and this is a comfortable place to start. I mean, $90, I mean, that was high for me because I was like, no, I'll do it for 60. And I was like, no, your time is worth way more than that. Like, it's just really coming to, I think setting your prices is just being in touch with yourself and really knowing what your information is. I don't want to say worth because it just sounds like, I don't know, not really good in my book, but that's the word I got to use, like what your information
The value
is worth,
of
the value, and give yourself time to grow and to learn from that, which is in retrospect going to help raise your prices and the information that you give to other people, because you're going to learn what is most important to talk about and what it's not, I guess. Yeah. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about your spending habits and what is your biggest expense?
Oh my God. I'm gonna say food, because, and not only like, oh, I'm going grocery shopping, like ordering food. Like I can have a fridge full of groceries and I'm like, I feel like Indian food today. It's like, and I'll order Indian food having just gone to the grocery store. You know what I mean? I definitely do not have good spending habits. If I have money, I like to spend it. I don't know what saving is. I've been trying to learn. My boyfriend has been very, very kind to me and made a whole sheet of my expenses. It's like, this is where you put your monthly expenses and when the bills come, and then this is what it calculates for you. Found out that I am not making enough money. So that's where it started. I was like, okay, so I need to make more money. That's great. But yeah, I've just been trying to get a little better, but I'm not. My biggest expense is food. Then it might be weed. Sorry about it. Then books, astrology. I've spent so much money on books. It's ridiculous. Like I just bought 4 books yesterday and I have like 5 of them that I haven't even read yet. That's how I am. I just want books forever.
I feel you. I've recently been going to the library, the digital library. I have a Kindle. And I do this cheating thing where I like get a bunch of the books that I want at the same time. And then I put them on my Kindle, and then I put my Kindle on airplane mode, and then I can keep the books for longer than 21 days. So right now I have a stack of like 15 books in my Kindle that's like on unlimited release. It's cheating the system, but like that's what I do. Mars and Aquarius. Boom.
Fuck yes. I love it. I love that.
The next question, the final question. What's the favorite thing that you've spent money on recently?
Oh, you know what? This is abstract. I'm going to say my astrology course. That was my favorite thing I spent money on, because holy shit, I've learned so much. It was great.
How much was that course, if you don't mind sharing?
It was shy of $900 because she was having a
Okay.
deal. Thank God. Yeah. Otherwise it was like 1,500, but it was great.
And how long was the program?
It was an 8-week course. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
$900,
Yeah, and I
that's
have,
a great price.
yeah, and I have access to it for a lifetime, and she does, because she put it all in a web, so you can now purchase the course. Like I did it live with her because it was the first time that she was doing it, but now she has it all in a program. You have like lifetime access to it. She does weekly calls where she answers your questions, and it's really like, yeah, I got pretty lucky. So
I
very
love
thankful for
how
that.
all of our favorite spending has been furthering our educations.
Yes.
It's the best. And honestly, like, yeah, especially since starting quarantine, like I can just learn the stuff that I love, and there's so much out there, like so many good Patreons you can join, and it's like I
Oh my
love
gosh.
it. Love it.
Yeah. I am like a Patreon fiend. But and it's just like all of these magical practitioners, healers, readers that I just am like, I'm enamored with their work, and I feel like being in those communities is so special, and I'm like glad to connect with people in that way, especially because I feel I'm just like, oh, I'm so alone, I'm so isolated, I want friends. And
Oh, I feel that.
it's just, I feel like the online space of having things like Patreon, it's just nice to have a place that you're like, okay, this isn't Instagram. Like it has but we're still digitally connected. It's not Instagram, it's not Facebook. I don't know who owns it, but I hope that they're good people, and I'm glad that we get to use Patreon right now. So yeah, I love that. Is there any just like hot astro tip you want to give before we do What's the Vibe?
I guess it's not a hot astro tip, but it's something everybody should know. If you're reading your horoscope, read for your rising sign. It's probably going to be the one that resonates the most. You can always read for your sun, moon, Venus, Mars, whatever you're feeling, obviously. But since most of the horoscopes are based on where the planets are falling in your house, based on the Eastern horizon, aka the ascendant, that's how the houses are going to be set up. So if you're a Libra rising, you want to read for Libra. If you're an Aquarius rising, you want to read for Aquarius, even though your sun might be Aries or Scorpio or whatever it is.
That is such an important
Yes.
tip. And I feel like that will
Love
change
that.
so many people's opinions about
Oh, yeah.
reading their
Oh my
horoscopes.
gosh. Yeah.
It changed
When
mine, certainly.
When I started reading horoscopes for Aquarius, I was like, oh my gosh.
It's like, oh,
Yes.
shit.
Yes. Yeah.
I love
Okay.
that.
Great tip. Thanks for that, Ellie. Let's do What's the Vibe?
What's the vibe? Our first
Oh my
What's the
gosh.
Vibe with a guest.
Yes, I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear what your vibe is. Since you are our guest, let's start with you. What's your vibe, Ellie? What are you vibing?
God, what am I vibing? I wish I had them with me. I just got these astrology dies. So fun. Hella vibing with them. Great way to practice different placements and also practice my intuition too. It's so fun because it's like, ask me anything and then I'll roll the dice and like we'll see what comes up. And it's just 3 dice. It's one with the houses, one with the planets, and one with the signs. So whatever combo comes up, you're like, oh, this might be the energy that's around you.
That's so fun.
I love those.
Pretty fun.
Yeah, I've loved on your stories. You put like a little question box and you were like, ask me anything. What's up astrologically? And I was so fascinated to see the questions that people asked. And then the insight that you were able to give through those dice, I thought was just like amazing. I've loved seeing them.
Thanks. I had so much fun doing it. I've been slacking this last week, but I think I'm gonna just try and make that like a couple times a week for a fun like thing. Cute.
Yay, I love that.
Fun.
That is fun. Okay. What's your vibe, Jay?
Oh my God. For the past 6 days, I've been waking up every morning and doing dynamic meditation. This is a practice that was given to me by my spiritual coach that I was talking about last week. And we were talking about it earlier on in the episode, but it's a practice from Osho, who is like a celebrated Zen teacher, and his practices are still very popular in like ashrams all over India. Like if you're an eat, pray, love person and you're like traveling to India to like find yourself, chances are you're going to find yourself in an ashram or a spiritual center that practices this style of meditation. And it's meant for people while they're on like silent 21-day meditation retreats or 28-day meditation retreats to like connect with the energy of the room and to come together as a community. But also it's a 5-step process that involves breath work, it involves catharsis, movement, and it's meant to send the energy up through your body, and then you end up in a meditation where you're just like sitting with having all that energy traveled up. So step 1 is deep chaotic breathing, and you're literally like through your nose, like throwing all of your body into your breath for 10 minutes.
Wow.
And then the next step is catharsis, and like he's like, go consciously mad, like go wild, throw your arms around, scratch the walls, scream out loud. In my case, I'm screaming into pillows because I don't want to wake my mom up, but like just like move, shake, do whatever you need to do to like move energy around, like shake things up. And then the third part is a chanting where you jump with your arms up, hands in the sky, and you jump and you say who, who. So like when your feet hit the ground and you're saying who, it's sending energy up from the ground up and like into your sacral center, like your creative sex center. So it's like activating that area. And then all of a sudden he just says stop, and then you just freeze where you are with your arms up. And you meditate for 15 minutes and just like see what comes up. By that point, you're sweating, your arms are already burning. Like it's just like a whole sensory experience of just being like, holy shit, I've just like run around, screamed, done all this crazy shit, breathe through my nose for 10 minutes, and like you're going wild. And then after 15 minutes, then this beautiful music comes on, and then you just freely flow and dance throughout the room. And it's 15 minutes of dancing, I think. And it's like an hour of just like, you go through a crazy wild experience, and then you just kind of like float through a dance, and then you're done.
Oh my God. That sounds pretty intense.
It's I mean, it's really not for beginners. It's really intense, but it moves energy. Like if you have energy that is stuck, it's not going to stay stuck once you've like done all that shit. So I've definitely felt shifts and movement in my energy bodies, and just like I've been able to bear so much more witness to like my state of consciousness by doing all these crazy things. I'm like, oh, now this is what I feel. Now I'm seeing this and like seeing crazy things, and it's been really cool. And like I was only supposed to do it she's like, try to do this 3 or 4 times, and now I'm on my 6th day in a row, and I think I'm just going to keep going.
Why not?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been really fun. What's your vibe?
My vibe is some basic bitch shit. Like my vibe is fall, like the season of fall. Even though
Love me some fall.
like there's not, it's like whatever. We don't get fall in Los Angeles the way that other places do, and that's always been fine with me. I don't care. But like I changed out our table runner to I have a fall table runner that I like use from September through November, and I changed it after Thanksgiving. And like for Joey's birthday was this past weekend, and we baked an apple pie, and that's something we usually go apple picking. So like obviously we're not going apple picking Corona. So, but we baked an apple pie at home, and I've just been thinking about like the shift in seasons, and that how even though we've been inside for so long, and that usually fall is the time we come back inside. Yeah, I've just been trying to like think about ways that I can still feel that shift, even though I'm not physically really doing anything different, or I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing all the fall stuff I normally do. And I've been like, I started watching Buffy again, which always, like, Buffy feels so fall to me. Like no matter what season it is in Buffy, I'm like, it's Halloween in this show. That all the time. And I actually ordered our Halloween costumes, and we planned a little thing we're gonna do, just the 2 of us, for Halloween. And I've just been sort of getting in that like fall state of mind. Pumpkin spice my life. Like, I don't know. That's just kind of where I've been.
That's where she's at. I'm still trying to like hang on to the final dregs of summer, and I'm like still buying up the last of the watermelons and the nectarines, and I'm like, don't go. But I think I'm gonna make pumpkin waffles this Saturday, and that to me is like, hey, we're kicking off fall. Hey, fall, we're here now.
Yeah, I like it. It's like it's Joey's birthday, it's our anniversary, it's my birthday. It's usually a time that we both see our families, like my family comes to visit and his family comes to visit. It's usually for us a very full time that I just associate with such happy memories and happy times. And I've just been trying to think about how I want to infuse some of those feelings into this year when everything is so different and we're not doing the stuff that we normally do. Because I have like a set fall ass schedule of stuff that I'm like, it's fall, we're going to the pumpkin patch, we're doing the corn maze. Like I have all that kind of stuff that I like to do. And this year I'm not doing that. So I've just been like, what else can I do?
Cute.
So that's my vibe. Just fall, basic bitch. That's
Pumpkin spice is some basic bitch shit, but it's okay because it's delicious.
I mean, I feel like just loving fall is some basic bitch shit. It's like, it's fine.
It's sweater season.
Yes, sometimes I'm just a basic bitch and no shame. I have no shame about that. Like,
Hey,
it is what it
we're
is.
all basic bitches. It's
We
in
are.
some
Our inner
degree.
basic bitch like just wants us to honor
Always
her.
there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna watch some Halloween shit. I need to get into fall. I'm literally still like just like eating watermelon by the half watermelon a day. And I'm just like, please don't leave me. But okay, I could introduce pumpkin. That's fine.
Just mix it in.
Yeah, like a pumpkin watermelon something.
For sure. It can be done.
We'll see.
Totally. Is that it?
That's it. This was
I
so
mean,
fun.
Maybe we will compile. Ellie, if you want to send us some of your favorite astrology resources, maybe some like
Absolutely.
some Twitter accounts you love or some Instagrams you love, any astrology, like maybe a couple astrology books that you love. We'll include that. We'll include some astrology resources in the show notes of this episode.
I
And
love that.
yeah, I'm so glad you got to join us today.
Yay. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
This was so fun. And thank you for reading into some of my planetary placements that felt very
course.
aligned.
Yes. I'm glad.
We will definitely have to have you back to keep having these astrology talks. And listeners, if you have any astrology questions for next time we do this, please send them in. We would love to just peruse your astrology cues.
I mean, and your homework for this week is to go look up your chart.
Yeah.
And see, like, if you've been doing sun sign astrology for the last 20 years and just like poo-pooing it because you're like, this makes no sense, like, there could be some hidden shit going on that makes more sense than the sun sign. So, really appreciative of this baby step information that we got today. But yeah, just go look at this, go look at the stars, and then go look at your chart and like figure some shit out.
Well, thank you, Ellie.
Thank you, Ellie.
We'll chat soon, I hope.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.